in Stoic Men Tribe. Today we're tapping into a powerful truth, a moment of inner strength, sharp clarity, and timeless wisdom. Share your thoughts in the comment. Please do us a favor by hitting the subscribe button, like and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Let's barrack it down, don't quit. Rise again. There will come a day, perhaps more than one, when life doesn't just test you, it flattens you. Not gently, not with warning, but with the full weight of everything you never saw coming. A day when you find yourself on your knees, not out of reverence, but because standing is no longer an option. It's the kind of day when the sun rises, but its light feels distant, as though it forgot how to reach you. A day when your heart becomes a battlefield, each beat a reminder of the war between hope and despair. Your mind, once a sanctuary, now a storm you can't outrun. Thoughts collide like thunder, and peace feels like a language you no longer speak. And yet, to the world, you appear unchanged. They see the smile you've carefully rehearsed. They hear the laugh that doesn't quite reach your eyes. They see you show up, on time, composed, as if the weight you carry isn't threatening to crush you. But they don't see the moments between moments. The silent battles fought behind closed doors. The tears that fall in the quiet of the night, when the world is asleep and your pain is wide awake. They don't see the strength it takes to rise each morning, to face a world that demands your best when you feel your worst. Because you've become a master of disguise. You've learned to wear your pain like armor, to turn your wounds into wisdom, your scars into stories of survival. You've learned that vulnerability is not weakness, but a testament to your humanity. And in those moments of solitude, when the facade fades and you're left with your truth, remember this: your struggle does not diminish your worth. Your pain is not a burden to bear alone. You are not defined by the battles you fight, but by the courage with which you face them. So when the weight becomes too much, when you find yourself on your knees, know that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to let others in. Because strength is not found in solitude, but in solidarity. You're not alone in your struggle, and you're not alone in your strength. They don't see it, do they? The battle you fought just to get out of bed this morning. The quiet war no one talks about, because it doesn't leave visible wounds. They see you standing, but they don't know what it cost. They don't know how heavy your chest felt when you opened your eyes, how your thoughts tried to convince you to stay curled up in the dark. They don't know about the storm that raged in your mind before the day even began. The voices that whispered, "You're not enough. You're failing. Why bother trying again?" They see you walking through the world with your head held high, but they don't feel the weight you're carrying in silence, the war to believe in yourself. When doubt wraps itself around your soul like chains, the war to keep your heart intact. When it's been shattered more times than you can count, the war to keep moving forward. When every fiber of your being is pleading with you to just stop, to let it all go, to surrender to the ache. But let me tell you something you may have forgotten in all that noise. You are not weak because you're tired. You are not fragile because you're in pain. You are not broken beyond repair because you cried last night, or because you're questioning everything today. You are human. You are real. You are brave in ways no one else may ever fully understand. Because you are still here, still breathing, still trying, still hoping, even in the smallest, most fragile ways. And that matters. That is strength. That is power, disguised in vulnerability. Don't you dare confuse exhaustion with defeat. Don't mistake your pain for weakness. Don't let the darkness make you forget the light you still carry. You've been through more than most people will ever know. You've been bruised by life. You've felt the sting of betrayal. You've known the kind of heartbreak that leaves echoes in your bones. You've stood in the wreckage of your own hope and wondered if you'd ever rebuild. And yet, here you are, still standing. Even if your legs tremble, still breathing. Even if every breath feels like a fight, still showing up. Even when everything in you says stay hidden. You are not the same as you were before the fall. You are wiser now. Softer in some places, harder in others. You've learned what it means to bend without breaking, to shatter and still shine. So don't quit. Don't let this moment convince you that it's the end. It's not. It's just a pause in the story, a storm passing through, a chapter that will one day make sense. Rise again. Not perfectly, not loudly, but truthfully, gritly, authentically. Because your story matters. Because someone out there needs to see someone like you keep going. And because the next breath you take might carry you closer to the peace, the healing, the joy that you've been walking toward all along. So shake if you must, cry if you must, crawl if you must, but don't quit. Rise, again and again, until the world sees what your soul has always known. You were never meant to stay down. There is something sacred, something holy and untouchable in the soul that refuses to stay down, not because it hasn't been broken, not because it hasn't known defeat, but precisely because it has felt the sting of failure, because it has tasted despair, because it has been knocked down again and again by life, by loss, by disappointment, by exhaustion. And yet, it rises, not always with grandeur, not always with noise. Sometimes the rise is quiet, a whisper of defiance beneath a breath. Sometimes it's slow, a crawl toward the light after nights buried in shadow. But it rises, and that is sacred. The world may never notice. It may never clap for your comeback. It may never throw you a parade for surviving the days you thought would break you. It may never write headlines about your resilience, because real strength is often invisible. It's the kind of courage that doesn't trend. It's the kind of heroism that doesn't wear a cape. It's the kind of victory that happens behind closed doors, in the silent corners of the soul. But don't be mistaken. That rise, that quiet, relentless refusal to give up, that is power. That is thunder disguised as a whisper. That is a victory the world may never applaud, but the universe remembers. Because strength, true strength, isn't forged in the spotlight. It's not sculpted in ease or applause or validation. It's built in the dark, in the lonely hours, in the silence after the heartbreak, in the stillness after the fall. It's built in the moments no one sees. When your hands shake and your heart aches, but you say to yourself, I'll try again. Even if your voice cracks, even if your belief is worn thin, even if you don't know how you'll make it through tomorrow. You rise. That's the kind of strength the world can't measure, because it lives deep inside the soul, because it is carved from pain, temper. You've risen without applause. You've healed without an audience. You've shown up for life, over and over, even when life hasn't shown up for you. And there is something breathtaking in that. There is something holy in your quiet resilience. There is something untouchable in the way you keep going. So hold your head high, not because they see you, but because you see you, because you know what it took, because you've earned every step. Strength is not noise. It's not spectacle. It's the sacred art of staying in the fight, even when no one's watching. And you are a masterpiece in the making. There are days when everything in your life will say, give up. And on those days, your decision matters more than ever. You don't need perfect conditions to rise. You don't need everyone to believe in you. You just need one reason, one spark to get back up. Rise again, not for applause, but because your future is waiting. Rise again, not for them, but for you. For the version of you that believed before the world told you not to. For the dream you held long before you had the tools to build it. For the soul that knows it's not done growing. Don't quit. Rise again. Because the story you're living isn't over, and the chapters ahead may be the ones that change everything. You've come too far. You've sacrificed too much. You've been through hell and still found a way to create light. You think this moment is your breaking point, but it might be your breakthrough. every champion you admire. They've fallen, they've failed, they've lost their way, but they chose one thing in common. They got back up. And so must you. Rise when it's hard, rise when you're tired. Rise when your faith feels like it's running on fumes. Rise when no one else claps. Rise when it feels like the dream is slipping away. Because every time you rise, you become stronger. Every time you rise, you remind the world that pain doesn't own you. Every time you rise, you get closer to becoming what you were always meant to be. You are not done. You are not defeated. You are just rising. So dust off the doubt. Wipe the tears. Straighten your spine. And rise again. Because your rise is a rebellion. Your rise is a declaration. Your rise is the proof that no matter how many times life tried to silence you, you refuse to stay quiet. Don't quit. Rise again. Because your story matters. Because the world still needs your light. Because the best parts of your journey are still ahead. Because real strength isn't born in the moments when everything makes sense. It's not shaped in the light when the path is clear and the world is cheering you on. Real strength is built in the unseen hours, in the lonely silence, in the quiet breakdowns no one ever hears about, in the stillness of a room where it's just you and the weight of your doubt. It's forged in the shadows when your heart is heavy, your body is tired, and your faith is paper thin. It's built in the moments when you stare at the mirror, tears burning behind your eyes, and still, somehow you whisper to yourself, "I'm not done yet, I'll try again." That whisper, that fragile sentence uttered in the middle of chaos, that is strength, because there will be days, not just once, but again and again, when everything inside you will scream, "Let it go, it's not worth it, you'll never make it." Your dreams will feel too far. Your progress will feel invisible. Your past will try to define you, and your present will try to break you. And on those days, those soul-crushing, silent battles, your choice matters more than anything else. Not how loud you roar, but that you choose not to walk away. You won't always feel brave. You won't always feel prepared. But you don't need perfect circumstances to rise. You don't need a clear sky or an open road. You don't need a crowd cheering for you or a guarantee of success. What you need is one reason, one spark, one breath of belief that says, "This pain is not the end of me." And even if everything around you is falling apart, even if the people you thought would stay disappear, even if nothing looks like you imagined, you get up anyway. You rise, not because the applause is waiting, not because someone will reward you, but because you have something inside you that refuses to die. You rise because your future needs you. You rise because somewhere in the middle of all this pain, you still know you were made for more than surrender. And one day, when the dust settles and you look back on everything that tried to stop you, you'll realize your rise was never about the destination. It was about the decision to try again, to hope again, to breathe again. So rise again, not for the noise, not for the recognition, but because your future is still waiting, and it's waiting for the version of you who refused to give up. Rise again, not for them, but for you. Not for the ones who left, not for the ones who doubted, not even for the ones silently watching, wondering if you'll make it this time. Rise for the version of you that once stood at the edge of possibility, wide-eyed, unguarded, and full of belief, before the world taught you to shrink, to doubt, to settle. Rise for the part of you that dreamed without needing permission, that hoped without needing proof. That version of you still lives inside you, waiting, watching, hoping you'll come back home to your own fire. Rise for the dream that kept you awake at night, before you knew the right words, before you had the right tools, before you had any idea how you'd pull it off. That dream chose you for a reason. It spoke to you in a language only your heart could understand, not because it would be easy, but because it would be worth everything. Rise again for your soul, the one that still believes in becoming, the one that hasn't given up, no matter how many battles it's had to endure silently, the one that knows it's not done growing, not done healing, not done becoming something more. Don't quit. Rise again. Even if your voice shakes, even if your legs are heavy, even if the world can't see your progress yet, because the story you're living is still unfolding, and the most meaningful chapters, the ones that will redefine you, might still be unwritten. You are not at your ending. You are at your rising. You've come too far to vanish quietly. You've survived too many silent storms to give up before the sun breaks through. You've carried weight that would have crushed a lesser soul, and still you chose to stand, to speak, to shine. You've wept in silence and healed in secret. You've walked through darkness and still held onto a flicker of light. You've lost pieces of yourself, and still somehow you never lost your will to begin again. This isn't about proving anything to the world. It's about reclaiming the parts of yourself you once buried to survive. It's about rising with intention, not to go back, but to go forward stronger, wiser, deeper. So if you think this is the moment everything falls apart, you feel the pressure building, your spirit cracking, and you wonder if this is it, the point where you finally break. But let me offer you another truth. Maybe this isn't your breaking point. Maybe this is your breakthrough in disguise. Every hero you've ever looked up to, every champion whose story lit a fire in your chest, they didn't rise without falling first. They stumbled. They broke down in the dark. They lost their way more times than they'll ever admit. But they had one thing in common. They refused to stay down. They stood back up, shaking, bruised, uncertain. Not because it was easy, not because they always believed, but because something inside them whispered, not yet. You're not done. And now it's your turn. When everything feels heavy, when your heart is tired and your vision is blurred by disappointment, stand. When the applause fades and the silence feels louder than your effort, stand. When the world forgets your name, when it feels like you're chasing something that's always 2 steps out of reach, stand anyway. Rise when it would be easier to stay down. Rise when your energy is gone and all that's left is grit. Rise when your prayers feel hollow and your faith is hanging by a thread. Rise when no one notices. Rise when no one believes. Rise when it feels like the dream is slipping through your fingers like water. You don't need everything to make sense right now. You don't need the crowd. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need to remember who you are beneath the noise. You just need to move 1 inch forward, even if you have to crawl, because you were not built to break. You were built to bend, to learn, to adapt, and then to rise stronger than before. So rise, not because it's easy, but because this moment, this struggle, this quiet battle in the shadows, might just be the beginning of the version of you that no storm can shake. Because every single time you choose to rise, even when your knees tremble and your heart feels like it's held together by threads, you become something more resilient, more aware, more unshakable. Every time you rise, you carve strength into your spirit like stone. You become a living reminder that pain does not own you, that it can visit but it cannot stay, that it can knock you down, but it cannot define who you are. Every rise is a quiet rebellion, a declaration that the darkness doesn't get the final word. That failure is not the end, only a detour. And that doubt, no matter how loud it screams, will never silence a soul that refuses to surrender. Each time you rise, you get closer, not just to the dream, but to the person you were always meant to become. The one who leads with fire in their chest and clarity in their eyes. The one who doesn't just survive storms, but learns to dance in the rain. And maybe you don't see it right now. Maybe you feel exhausted, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. Maybe you're questioning why you're still trying. But hear this, you are not finished. You are not broken beyond repair. You are not lost. You're just walking through a part of the journey that most people give up on. You are not done. You are not defeated. You are simply in the middle of your rise. So breathe. Feel the earth beneath you. Let the past fall from your shoulders. You don't have to carry that weight anymore. Dust off the doubt that told you you're not enough. Wipe the tears that clouded your vision but never weakened your spirit. Straighten your spine like a warrior returning to the battlefield. Because that's what this is, a battle, and you're still in it. Not because you haven't been knocked down, but because you chose to rise anyway. So stay in, even if it's shaky, even if your heart still hurts, even if your future looks unclear. Stand, because your soul remembers how. Rise again, not to prove something to the world, but to remind yourself that your story isn't over. Not yet. Not now. Not like this. Rise again. And this time, don't just rise, emerge. Transformed. Untouchable. Unbreakable. Unstoppable. Because every time you rise, you're doing more than just standing back up. You're declaring war on every voice that told you to give up. You are pushing back against the weight of the world that tried to crush you. Your rise is not small. It is not quiet. It is not subtle. Your rise is a rebellion against hopelessness, against the narrative that said you'd never make it, against every memory that tried to convince you that your best days were behind you. Your rise is a declaration that you still have something to say, that your story is still being written, that your soul will not bow to pain or disappointment. It's proof, undeniable proof, that no matter how many times life tried to dim your voice, to break your spirit, to bury your fire beneath fear and failure, you refused to stay quiet. You refused to vanish. You refused to be forgotten. You stood up. You spoke life into your own future. You chose to rise again and again when no one would have blamed you for staying down. And maybe you're tired. Maybe the road has been longer and lonelier than you expected. Maybe the fight has cost you more than you were prepared to pay. But don't quit. Not here. Not now. Not when you've come this far. Because your journey is not a mistake. Your presence is not an accident. And your pain, it has shaped you, but it has not defined you. There are still chapters to write. There are still victories waiting for you. Some loud and glorious, others quiet and sacred. You don't rise just for yourself. You rise for those watching in silence, for the ones who've lost hope but haven't lost sight of you. You rise to remind them, and yourself, that light still lives inside you, that your breath still holds purpose, that the flame within you, though battered, is still burning. So don't quit. Don't bow out before the miracle. Don't let this be where your story ends. Rise again. Not just because you can, but because the world still needs what only you carry. Rise because your voice still matters. Rise because your courage still echoes. Rise because the best moments of your life, the ones where everything finally makes sense, the ones where your soul feels whole, the ones where your scars become symbols of strength, they are still ahead of you. So take a breath. Let the past be behind you. Let the weight fall from your shoulders. And when you're ready, stand tall, step forward, and rise again. If this resonates with you, share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.